I need to tell you something that has been eating at me. For the last 9 years, I have been quietly building a food stockpile that looks nothing like what you see on prepper forums or YouTube channels, and here is the thing that keeps me up at night. While everyone is buying the exact same stuff from the exact same places, creating the exact same shortages, I have been focusing on 11 foods that most preppers walk right past every single day. During the panic buying in 2023, I watched shelves get demolished in 90 minutes. Rice, gone. Pasta, wiped out. Canned goods, completely cleared. But the 11 items I am about to share with you, fully stocked. Nobody touched them. Number 3 on this list costs less than $4 at your local grocery store right now, but it delivers more usable calories than those $60 freeze-dried meals. And when I tell you about number 8, you are going to kick yourself for not thinking of it sooner. It has been hiding in plain sight, costs practically nothing, and will outlast your grandchildren. Before we dive in, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button right now, because I share strategies like this every single week that you will not find anywhere else in the prepping community. Now let me ask you something. Why are we all buying the same things? Because we read the same blogs, watch the same channels, and follow the same advice. The problem is that creates predictable behavior. And during a real crisis, predictable means you are competing with 10,000 other people for the same limited supply. I realized this back in 2020 when I showed up at the store and saw absolute chaos. But here is what nobody expected. I walked to a different section, grabbed items nobody was even looking at, and walked out with a cart full of food that will keep my family fed for months. Let me show you what I found. Food number 1 is canned sardines. Okay, I know what you were thinking. Sardines? That is your big secret. But listen to what happened last month that changed everything for me. I was talking to a guy who spent 23 years in commercial fishing. He told me something that completely shifted how I think about protein storage. Sardines packed in olive oil are one of the most nutrient-dense foods on planet Earth. One single can contains more omega-3s than a week's worth of those expensive fish oil supplements preppers waste money on. And here is the part that blows my mind. Sardines actually improve with age. Like wine, the bones soften, the flavors meld, and the nutritional profile stays rock solid. I have got cans in my stockpile that are 5 years old, and they taste better now than when I bought them. But here is why this matters for survival. Protein is the hardest thing to store long term. Fresh meat requires refrigeration. Freeze-dried meat costs a fortune. Beans are great, but they are incomplete proteins. Sardines give you complete protein, healthy fats, calcium from the bones, vitamin D, vitamin B12, and selenium all in one tiny package. Let me give you real numbers. 1 can of sardines costs about $2.50. It contains around 20 grams of complete protein and 15 grams of healthy fats. Compare that to freeze-dried chicken at $18 for the same protein content. The math is insane. During a 3-day power outage last winter, I lived primarily on sardines mixed with crackers and hot sauce. The energy was incredible. I felt sharp, focused, and never got that weak, shaky feeling you get from carb-heavy emergency food. And here is something most preppers completely miss. The oil that sardines are packed in is just as valuable as the fish. That olive oil is pure calories and healthy fats. Drain it into your rice, your pasta, your vegetables. Nothing goes to waste. Storage is dead simple. Keep them in a cool, dry place. Rotate oldest to the front. Use them in regular meals so nothing expires. I currently keep about 100 cans in my stockpile. It cost me less than $250 total, and that represents months of high-quality protein that nobody is panic buying during shortages. Here is a recipe that saved my sanity during the last supply chain breakdown. Drain 1 can of sardines, mash them up with a fork, mix in some mayonnaise or mustard if you have it, spread it on crackers or bread. You have just made something that tastes legitimately good and delivers serious nutrition. The military has known this for decades. Sardines were standard issue in rations because they pack maximum nutrition into minimum space, require zero preparation, and last forever. While other preppers are dropping $300 on buckets of questionable freeze-dried meals, I am stocking up on sardines that cost pennies per serving and deliver restaurant-quality nutrition. Food number 2 is lentils. Number 2 is going to sound basic at first, but stay with me because there is a reason this belongs on the secret list. Lentils. I know you are thinking that is not a secret. Every prepper has lentils, but here is what 90% of preppers do not understand about them. Lentils cook faster than any other dried legume. Rice takes 20 minutes. Beans take hours and require soaking. But lentils? 12 to 15 minutes from dry to fully cooked. In a fuel shortage scenario where every bit of propane or firewood matters, that speed is everything. I learned this during a winter storm 3 years ago. Power was out. I was cooking on a small camping stove with limited fuel. I could make a pot of lentils using 1/3 the fuel it took to make rice. That difference adds up fast when you are rationing. But here is where it gets really interesting. Lentils are one of the highest protein legumes available. We are talking 26 grams of protein per cup. And unlike beans, they are easier to digest, which means less bloating and discomfort. When you are living off your stockpile for weeks, digestive comfort becomes critically important for morale and health. Lentils come in different varieties, and this is key. Red lentils cook the fastest but turn mushy. Green and brown lentils hold their shape and have a heartier texture. Black lentils have the richest flavor. I keep all 3 types because variety prevents food fatigue. Here is something most people do not know. Lentils do not need to be soaked, but if you sprout them for just 2 days, the nutritional value skyrockets. The vitamin C content increases by 6 times. In a long-term survival situation where fresh vegetables are unavailable, sprouted lentils become your multivitamin. Storage is simple, but critical. Keep them in airtight containers away from light and heat. Lentils can last 30 years when stored properly, but most people just leave them in the bag, which cuts the lifespan down to 2 or 3 years. I personally keep 50 pounds of lentils in food-grade buckets with oxygen absorbers. The total cost was about $40. That is over 150 meals for the price of 2 freeze-dried meal pouches. Here is my go-to recipe that turned my family into lentil believers. Cook lentils in vegetable or chicken broth instead of water. Add diced onions, garlic, and whatever spices you have. The result is something that actually tastes like a meal you would choose to eat, not survival food. During the supply chain chaos in 2022, I watched stores run out of rice and beans within hours. But lentils still fully stocked 3 days later. Why? Because most Americans do not cook with them regularly, so they do not think to stock up. That is exactly why they belong in your hidden stockpile. Food number 3 is peanut butter powder. Number 3 is an absolute game changer that I discovered by accident, and now I cannot imagine my stockpile without it. Peanut butter powder. This is not regular peanut butter. This is dehydrated peanut butter that has had most of the oil removed, then ground into powder. And before you think, that sounds terrible, let me explain why this is genius. Regular peanut butter has a major problem for long-term storage. The oils go rancid. Even sealed jars start tasting off after about 2 years. But peanut butter powder? When stored properly, it lasts 10 to 15 years. The protein stays intact. The flavor remains perfect, and you can reconstitute it with water anytime you need actual peanut butter. But here is where it gets next level. Because the oil is removed, peanut butter powder is much higher in protein per ounce than regular peanut butter. 2 tablespoons give you 8 grams of protein for only 60 calories. Compare that to regular peanut butter, which has the same protein but 190 calories because of all the fat. Now, do not get me wrong, fat is important in survival situations, but having the option to get high protein without all the calories means you can stretch your food supply further. Here is what changed my mind about this stuff. Last summer, I did a 2-week camping trip eating only from my stockpile. I brought peanut butter powder and started adding it to everything. I mixed it into oatmeal for breakfast, stirred it into soups for lunch, made peanut sauce for dinner by mixing it with soy sauce and garlic powder. The versatility was insane. And here is a hack that will blow your mind. You can add peanut butter powder to protein shakes, smoothies, baked goods, sauces, and even just eat it dry as a snack. Try doing that with a jar of Jif. The storage is what really sold me. Instead of taking up tons of space with heavy glass jars, peanut butter powder comes in lightweight containers or bags. I can store the equivalent of 20 jars of peanut butter in the space of 3. For preppers with limited storage, that is huge. I keep about 10 pounds in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. Total cost was around $70, but that represents over 100 servings of high-protein food that will last well over a decade. Here is the reality. Peanut butter is comfort food. It reminds people of normal life. When morale is tanking during week 3 of eating plain rice, being able to make peanut butter toast or a peanut sauce changes everything psychologically. And while other preppers are hoarding jars of Skippy that will go bad in 18 months, you have got the powdered version sitting in your closet for the next 15 years, ready whenever you need it. Food number 4 is instant coffee. All right, number 4 might seem obvious, but most preppers completely underestimate how critical this is. Instant coffee, and I am not talking about it just being nice to have. I am talking about it being a legitimate survival asset. Let me tell you what happened during a week-long power outage 2 winters ago. By day 3, people in my neighborhood were getting desperate, not for food, not for water, for caffeine. I watched grown adults get headaches, mood swings, and complete inability to think clearly, all because they could not get their morning coffee. Caffeine withdrawal is no joke. But here is what makes instant coffee brilliant for preppers. It is lightweight, takes up almost no space, lasts for years, and requires only hot water. No brewing equipment, no filters, nothing. Just add water and you are good. Now, here is something most people do not think about. Coffee is an incredible barter item. During any extended crisis, people will trade valuable supplies for coffee. I am talking about things they would never normally trade. I have seen it happen. A neighbor traded an entire box of ammunition for 6 jars of instant coffee during the last shortage. That is how valuable it becomes. But beyond barter, there is the practical reality. Caffeine helps you stay alert during high-stress situations. If you are pulling security shifts, rationing sleep, or dealing with crisis decision-making, caffeine is a tool. The military figured this out a century ago. Every MRE includes instant coffee for a reason. Here is the storage method that extends shelf life dramatically. Buy instant coffee in bulk. Transfer it into mason jars with tight lids. Add a silica gel packet to absorb moisture. Store in a cool, dark place. Done properly, instant coffee maintains quality for 5 years minimum, and I have personally used coffee that was 8 years old that tasted fine. I keep about 20 jars in my stockpile. Total cost was around $60. But think about what you are really storing. You are storing mental clarity, morale boosts, and trade leverage all in one item. Here is a pro tip. Get the freeze-dried instant coffee, not the cheap spray-dried stuff. Freeze-dried tastes significantly better and has a longer shelf life. Brands like Mount Hagen or Starbucks Via are worth the extra dollar. During the pandemic shortages, I watched coffee disappear from shelves, but instant coffee was always restocked faster because fewer people buy it regularly. That gap in demand is your advantage. Food number 5 is honey. Number 5 is straight up magic. And if you do not have this in your stockpile, you are making a huge mistake. Honey, and here is something that will blow your mind. Archaeologists found 3,000-year-old honey in Egyptian tombs. They tested it. Still edible. Honey does not spoil. Ever. It is the only food on Earth with an infinite shelf life. Here is why that matters. While every other food in your stockpile has an expiration date you need to track, rotate, and worry about, honey just sits there forever, waiting. But honey is not just about shelf life. It is an antibiotic. Actual studies show honey has antibacterial properties. In a grid-down scenario where you cannot get to a hospital, honey can be applied directly to wounds to prevent infection. This is not folk medicine. This is documented science. Let me tell you what happened during a camping accident last year. My son cut his hand pretty badly on a sharp rock. We were 2 days from the nearest hospital. I cleaned the wound and applied raw honey directly to it, then wrapped it. Changed the dressing twice a day with fresh honey. No infection. It healed perfectly. But here is where honey becomes even more valuable. It is pure energy. When your blood sugar crashes from physical exertion or stress, a spoonful of honey brings you back instantly. It is faster than any energy bar or sports drink because the sugars are already broken down. Your body absorbs them immediately. And unlike refined sugar, honey contains trace minerals, enzymes, and antioxidants. I keep 3 types in my stockpile. Regular honey for everyday use, raw, unfiltered honey for medicinal purposes, and crystallized honey, which is easier to ration because you can scoop out exact amounts. Total cost was about $80 for around 20 pounds. Now here is something critical. Buy real honey, not the fake stuff. If the label says honey blend or has added ingredients, it is not real honey and will not last. Look for labels that say 100% pure honey or raw honey. Storage is dead simple. Keep it in the original container or transfer to glass jars. Do not refrigerate it, just keep it at room temperature. If it crystallizes, that is normal. Just warm the jar in hot water and it liquefies again. Here is a survival recipe that saved me during a nasty flu last winter. Mix 1 tablespoon of honey with warm water and a squeeze of lemon. It soothes your throat, gives you energy, and the antibacterial properties help fight infection. While other preppers are stockpiling refined sugar that goes hard and clumpy, you have got an infinite supply of natural sweetness. that also functions as medicine. That is next level prepping. Food number 6 is baking soda. Number 6 is going to sound weird, but once you understand what I am about to tell you, you will never look at this stuff the same way. Baking soda. And no, I am not just talking about using it for baking. I am talking about it being one of the most multifunctional survival items you can stockpile. Here is what most preppers miss. Baking soda lasts indefinitely. It does not spoil, does not expire, and maintains its effectiveness forever if kept dry. But here is where it gets interesting. Baking soda is a natural antacid. When you are eating unfamiliar foods or a lot of beans and rice, digestive issues become a real problem. Half a teaspoon of baking soda in water neutralizes stomach acid instantly. It also works as a toothpaste. Mix it with a little water and you have got an effective way to clean your teeth when regular toothpaste runs out. Trust me, dental health becomes critical in long-term survival. Infections from bad teeth can kill you. But wait, it gets better. Baking soda is a natural deodorizer. In a situation where you cannot shower regularly, sprinkling baking soda on your body absorbs odors and moisture. It is also a fire extinguisher. Baking soda smothers grease fires. Keep a box near your cooking area. I learned this from an old prepper who lived through the Depression. He told me his family used baking soda for everything because it was cheap and did 20 jobs. They used it to wash clothes, clean dishes, treat bee stings, and even as a leavening agent for bread. I keep about 50 pounds of baking soda in my stockpile. It cost me around $30. That is years of multifunctional use for less than the cost of a single freeze-dried meal. Storage is simple. Keep it in airtight containers to prevent moisture absorption. I use food-grade buckets with gamma lids. As long as it stays dry, it lasts forever. Here is a hack I use regularly. I keep a small container of baking soda mixed with a few drops of essential oil in my prepper bathroom kit. It works as dry shampoo, deodorant, and foot powder. One item, 3 uses. That is the kind of efficiency serious preppers need to think about. Food number 7 is vinegar. Number 7 is another one of those items that seems too simple, but it is absolutely critical. White vinegar. And I am not talking about the fancy balsamic stuff. I mean plain white distilled vinegar. Here is why this belongs in every serious stockpile. Vinegar never goes bad. The acidity prevents bacterial growth indefinitely. You can store vinegar for decades and it will still be just as effective. But here is what makes vinegar a survival powerhouse. It is a natural disinfectant. You can use it to clean surfaces, sanitize water containers, and even treat minor wounds when you have got nothing else. During a long-term grid-down situation, sanitation becomes your number one health concern. Vinegar helps you maintain clean conditions, but it also preserves food. If you have got fresh vegetables or eggs and no refrigeration, pickling them in vinegar extends their life by months. I have personally pickled cucumbers, onions, and peppers using just vinegar, salt, and spices. They lasted 6 months without refrigeration. Here is something most preppers do not know. Vinegar can be used to treat fungal infections like athlete's foot. Soak your feet in diluted vinegar and it kills the fungus. In a situation where you cannot get antifungal medication, this is huge. I keep 10 gallons of white vinegar in my stockpile. It cost me around $25. That is years of preserving, cleaning, and medicinal use. Storage is simple. Keep it in the original plastic jugs in a cool place. It does not need special containers or conditions. Here is a recipe I use constantly. Mix equal parts vinegar and water in a spray bottle. You have just made an all-purpose cleaner that disinfects surfaces without chemicals. I use it to clean counters, cutting boards, and even my hands when soap is not available. Food number 8 is popcorn kernels. All right, number 8 is one that I guarantee you have never seen on a prepper list, but it is absolutely brilliant, popcorn kernels. And before you roll your eyes, let me explain why this is genius. Popcorn kernels are whole grain corn. That means they contain all the fiber, vitamins, and minerals of the original plant. And when stored properly in airtight containers, they last for decades. But here is the part that makes this a secret weapon. Popcorn is insanely calorie dense for the weight. 1 cup of kernels makes about 8 cups of popped popcorn. That is serious volume that fills you up. In a rationing situation, feeling full matters just as much as actual calories. But here's where it gets really smart. Popcorn requires minimal fuel to cook. You can pop it over an open fire, on a camp stove, or even in a pan with just a tiny bit of oil. Compare that to rice or beans, which need sustained heat for 20 to 30 minutes. I discovered this during a power outage when I was trying to conserve propane. I could make a huge bowl of popcorn using 1/10 the fuel it took to cook rice. The kids were happy, everyone felt full, and I barely used any resources. And here is something nobody talks about. Popcorn is a comfort food. It reminds people of movies, normal life, and happy times. When morale is crashing during an extended emergency, being able to make popcorn feels like a luxury. That psychological boost is worth more than you think. I keep about 30 pounds of popcorn kernels in sealed buckets. Total cost was around $40. That is hundreds of servings of comfort food that lasts for decades. Here's a pro tip. Add nutritional yeast or powdered cheese to your popcorn after it is popped. You have just turned a simple snack into something that tastes gourmet and delivers extra nutrition. Food number 9 is soy sauce. Number 9 is hiding in plain sight at every grocery store, but almost nobody thinks to stockpile it. Soy sauce. And here is why this is absolutely critical. Soy sauce is pure concentrated flavor. When you are eating bland rice and beans for the 3rd week straight, adding soy sauce transforms the meal completely. But it is not just about taste. Soy sauce contains protein and essential amino acids. It is also incredibly shelf-stable. Unopened bottles last for years. Even after opening, soy sauce lasts for months at room temperature because the salt content preserves it. Here is what I learned from talking to a chef who grew up in Asia. Soy sauce is not just a condiment. It is a base ingredient for dozens of dishes. You can make marinades, soups, stir-fries, and sauces all from 1 bottle. I keep about 20 bottles in my stockpile. Total cost was around $30. That is years of flavor enhancement that takes up minimal space. Here is a recipe that became a family favorite during the last shortage. Cook plain rice. While it is hot, drizzle soy sauce over it and stir. Add a fried egg on top if you have one. The combination is incredible, and it turns boring rice into something you actually crave. Food number 10 is canned tomatoes. Number 10 is something I see in every prepper pantry, but most people do not understand how valuable it really is. Canned tomatoes. And I am talking about whole peeled tomatoes, crushed tomatoes, tomato paste, all of it. Here is why this belongs on the secret list. Tomatoes are the base for hundreds of different meals. Pasta sauce, chili, soup, stew, curry. It all starts with tomatoes. But beyond versatility, canned tomatoes are nutritionally dense. They are high in vitamin C, lycopene, and potassium. The canning process actually increases the bioavailability of lycopene, which is a powerful antioxidant. Here is what makes this smart prepping. Canned tomatoes are dirt cheap. A can costs less than $1 and can turn plain pasta or rice into a complete meal. I personally keep over 100 cans in my stockpile. Total cost was under $80. That is months of meal variety. Storage is simple. Keep them in a cool, dry place. Rotate oldest cans to the front. They last for years. Here is my go-to survival recipe. Open 1 can of crushed tomatoes. Add garlic powder, onion powder, dried basil, and a pinch of salt. Simmer for 10 minutes. You have just made pasta sauce from scratch that tastes better than anything from a jar. Food number 11 is oats. Number 11 is the foundation that ties everything together. Oats. And I am not talking about instant oatmeal packets. I mean whole rolled oats or steel-cut oats. Here is why oats are non-negotiable in a serious stockpile. They are one of the most versatile grains you can store. You can eat them hot as oatmeal, cold as overnight oats, grind them into flour for baking, or even use them to make milk. But here is what makes oats special. They are incredibly filling because of their high fiber content. When you are trying to stretch calories, oats keep you satisfied for hours. I keep over 100 pounds of oats in food-grade buckets. Total cost was around $60. That is months of breakfast, snacks, and baking ingredients. Storage is simple. Keep them airtight with oxygen absorbers. They last for decades. Here is the ultimate prepper breakfast. Cook oats in water or milk. Add a spoonful of honey, a handful of raisins, and a sprinkle of cinnamon. You have just made a meal that delivers sustained energy and actually tastes good. Okay, there you have it. 11 foods that nobody talks about, but that should be the backbone of every serious stockpile. While everyone else is fighting over the same rice and beans, you now have a list of items that are cheaper, more versatile, and will actually be available when shortages hit. If this information helped you, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me which of these 11 you are stocking up on first. And subscribe, because next week I am revealing the biggest mistakes preppers make that could get them killed in the first 72 hours of a collapse. You do not want to miss that.